What's up, everybody? Stuart Anderson here for episode 15, Me Duole podcast. We're so excited to introduce our guest. TJ Eisenhart joined us through fate. Chip connected with TJ, and he graciously accepted to spend an hour with us talking about his future, his philosophy, and his vibes. We're just so grateful for TJ, a local legend here. Grateful to be with him and connect with him. And hopefully we look forward to doing lots more collaboration with him as he's going to be at gravel rides and events throughout Utah and throughout the year. So huge shout out to TJ and the time spent with him. Grateful to meet him. Hopefully you learn a lot from him. A lot of great insights into how he thinks and how he lives and how he approaches cycling. So enjoy the episode, and all our thanks to TJ. Thanks. All right, welcome to the Me Duole podcast. Stuart here with Spencer Chipping. We're so excited to have, local Utah hero, in my opinion. TJ Eisenhart is with us. If you're on the YouTube channel, you can see TJ smiling, dude. We're so excited to have you. Welcome.
Yeah, man, really appreciate it. It's great being on here, and like I said, just being able to chat with you guys.
So if you don't know TJ, I've got a short introduction that will include you being an idiot for not knowing who TJ is. Just kidding. We're going to be nice. I watched TJ. My favorite was watching you in Tour, Utah, obviously. So fun seeing you there and being our local hero, kind of us watching you and cheering you on. It was one of my favorite Tour Utah years. So 7th place that year, we watched you at Tour Utah. And then one of my most favorite things was that podcast you did with Lance from your breakaway at the Colorado Classic. Like, so fun to hear you talk about that day and your opportunity to be in that position. But TJ's down in Ivins, right? Santa Clara, is that where you are?
Yeah, St. George, Ivins, down here in southern Utah. And I just love it. It's great for, always being outside and enjoying the good weather. And so, yeah, I love it.
Nice. And then I've got you, you had your beautiful daughter, which I've watched on social media, born July 2019. Congratulations. Very cool to have a daughter.
Yeah, man, it's been the greatest journey. I was just talking to one of my friends who actually married me today. I saw him out riding, and he was just talking about Nirvana, and we were just talking about how great it is just to be a father and be going through these stages and be, just flowing with it in life. And it's really fun how, as a dad, I feel like now I'm starting to get more and more into like my stage of it all, with her being at this age of where she's doing like swim lessons. She's able to I'm able to throw her on the front of my bike and go ride some single track with her and really introduce her and to help her grow and learn and give her all these tools. And you can just see how much she's learning and how fun it is. And it's just so cool how, like I said, you're growing every single day. It's never the same pattern or rhythm. You might feel like one week you got it down and you're like, all right, yeah, I'm growing. And then next thing you know, she's growing and doing something else or knows how to open doors. And so it's awesome. I dig it. It's the coolest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, man. Hey, you're preaching to the choir. Chip's got 5 kids. He's like, right.
Oh man, I don't know if I love it that much, man.
We'll see about that.
Kidding.
We'll see about that, TJ. Yep, you might pass.
You're
still young.
Yeah, that's the beauty is hopefully by the time we're 40, me and my wife, we're clean living, and just enjoying life. I love it. So but yeah, no, we're stoked just with 1 right now. 5 would be a little crazy for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it is.
Hey, well, Spence, maybe you could share how you guys connected. How did you and TJ connect?
Absolutely. I'm interested in TJ's podcast, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. I connected with TJ regarding his podcast, and TJ and I actually connected on the business scene in LinkedIn and started talking a little bit about some opportunities. And so I said to TJ, you have a fan base here in Salt Lake City in the Duole cycling team. So it would be an honor if we could touch base with you and host you on our podcast. And TJ was gracious enough and got right back and said, hey, let's do it. So best case scenario in all of this, some of us are racing TJ this weekend at team camp down in
yeah, right.
in St. George. TJ, is one way that we want to kick this off a little bit is talk about it, in that same vein, your racing and your history in cycling has kind of launched you into a lot of different opportunities in where you are today. And it's really cool how this is our perspective. You see a cyclist be a cyclist, and when their career ends, so do they. Well, with TJ, we have seen his cycling career go, and then suddenly from there, it blossoms into everything else and all of your other ventures that you are doing. So share with us share with us that transition and how you feel like it has just kind of catapulted you into these different opportunities that you have now.
Yeah, it's super cool when I look back now, or when I'll meditate and think about maybe my roadmap or my blueprint, how I've gotten to where I am today, because where I am today is dreaming. It's just incredible. I'm with all my dream sponsors, all my dream life. Like, it's just great. I mean, yeah, there's ups and downs, but it's great. And like you said, everyone knew me for starting off in cycling, kind of like, I guess, like local, junior legend at RMR, had fun with that then was in the, kind of doing a lot of national stuff, national team, then moving to Europe, then signed for BMC, and then moved to Europe and was racing in Europe and for like 4 years, and then signed for George Hincapie's team. And during that whole time, and during my whole time of racing, I would always wanted it to connect more, but I was always kind of felt like I was fighting this frequency. And really what it was, like, even though it felt like I was fighting it, it was actually me just not being fulfilled. And it took me a while. My dad actually had to say that to me. He's like, no, man, you didn't fail at this or do this. You just never were fulfilled. Like, you would just need more than the average, and you need more than just training and racing. Like, I did that. I raced, I trained, I got to, those levels. I did, my biggest goal ever since I was a junior was to race Tour of Utah, and then I did that, and I got, the best young rider jersey and 6 overall, and played there. And I played every year at that race, and I always did a show and always had fun, but always kind of, I think now when I look back in my mind, it was like, I always knew that it was setting up for something bigger and more, because I was always thinking about the next stage, which is actually my podcast, but the next stage of what's after cycling. Because when you're racing in cycling at that high level, it could be gone in a year. It could be gone tomorrow, because unlike any other sport, there's no really, insurance or reliability towards it, so it could be like a team could be going away, or you could be crashing in a race tomorrow and be done with your cycling career. And then what do you have? And so I've always kind of just, even if I didn't even know back then, I was just kind of putting these pieces together so that when it did come time for me to finally like step away, I knew I had already built like a steady platform. And that platform that I had built, I called it Imaginary Collective. And so it's Imaginary Collective because to me, it was just this imaginary thing that I didn't even know what it was going to be fully yet. And I wanted it to be this kind of collective of things or growth. And, then it just blossomed into, like I said, this cool gravel project with one of my best friends. And it allowed me to, partner up with Santa Cruz, Monster, Pirelli, all these brands that you dream about as a child, and now you're doing it. And so it's pretty, like I said, it's just super. I don't know really how that transition. I think, like I said, I just always in the back of my mind had this idea of the exit, and just knew that as it got closer, you could feel it. Like during the year of 2019, I could feel that that was going to be my final year. Like I knew in January, I was like, this is not for me. Like I knew my wife was pregnant. So I knew I didn't want to be in Europe anymore. I knew I didn't want to be racing on the road all the time. And also the biggest thing was I didn't want anybody else controlling my income.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, I'm a major believer in that. And like now is that like, I don't let anybody, like just because with cycling, like I said, you could have a 2-year deal signed and then the next year they lose a sponsor. Right. So then that 2-year deal you had got cut in half, and it's like when that happened and you're like, well, I didn't even do anything. Then it was like, well, I'm not going to ever let that happen to me again, where somebody slips up, because that was somebody else's fault. And that wasn't my fault. And for me, I'm like, I'll always take responsibility. I'll always take the blame. I'll always do what I need to do, in order to just get it done. And it was like, man, no, I'm just willing to do that. And if you're willing to do that and willing to fail, and which I was willing to like be at zero and not get paid to be able to make it and have my freedom and have my base. And, that's what's just allowed me to blossom into what I am now. And it's incredible. Like I just, super blessed, super grateful. And, it's 5. It's just incredible. So
that's cool.
Hey, TJ, is this like your philosophy on life, on racing? I love to hear it. Is that self-learned, self-taught, or was this like from parents, friends, a culture of cycling? Like where did you create this idea like that you follow?
This idea of what, like imaginary collective, or how I want to ride?
Yeah, I mean
that you control.
Yeah, that you control versus, it. I mean, everything that I just
because I'm an artist, and it's really anybody. That's when I look at it. It's funny because anybody could be doing it, but that's what makes an artist is we're willing to actually do it, and we're willing to see that who we are is special. Like that, you're special. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing more special than you. So like me just riding my bike is me doing it in a way that I ride. Therefore, it's an art form. Therefore, it's a style. Therefore, you can create something off that style and that art form. How do you like to ride? And a lot of times we're always just looking at what are they selling you? What are the pros wearing? What's the fastest? But you're not thinking about actually how you feel and how you want to feel and how you want to be this expression. And for me, I just applied how I do my art to my cycling and realized it hit me one day in 2019 when I was like, yeah, I can for sure do this, because I just felt like, well, why is one way of racing a style of pro and it didn't make sense to me, and for me, it was like, I had this following, I had the connections, and I just wanted to show that, I'm just being an artist, but yet on a bike, I'm not trying to, like I said early on with Imaginary Collective, we were never about the results. We're never about, coming in and targeting these races, because my whole philosophy on that was, once you win the race, what's next? Just come back next year and win it again.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's great. I'm not trying to, bash on anybody, because I know that takes that dedication and hard work and it's sacrifice in this. But to me, that's just what it is. It's just then a skill set doing that. And I wanted to create art. And, I didn't leave, road racing to just come into another section to do the same, to pursue glory that I couldn't in road racing.
Yeah.
It's like, if I wanted to continue racing road, I could have done that, no problem. But I didn't. I chose to come over to gravel, and I made a point to tell people I'm not targeting any races. I'm really targeting capturing the aesthetic of what, gravel is, what Imaginary Collective is, who I am, and then the more I've realized through meditation and the more work that I've done through self, like I said, going through inside yourself and looking at who you are, what makes you special, what makes you great, what makes you awesome. Once you find those things, and a lot of people are afraid to look for those, but once you find those things, then you can apply that to everything. And, you just then are creating your own section. And it's like people are drawn to it without, it's like you said, like, what is this art? What is this style of riding that you have? And it's like, man, it's not, I just created it, and that's the same thing with my art is you could ask, well, I just created it. And that's the same thing. And that's, but a lot of people, it takes a lot of vulnerability to tell a company straight up, like, yo, we're not targeting a win. That takes a lot of balls. Nobody's said that, like, to a big sponsor. And I told them we weren't. And even the ideas I still tell them, about, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this. It still is just like pushing the boundaries above what people view as gravel or cycling, because the issue now is that gravel has now gotten its own like vibe and aesthetic when it's not. It's just a form of creation,
Right.
And that's, like there's pro racing and that's a style, but then gravel is this place where people from every unique, corner of this world can come out and be riding it in a costume, be riding it on a fixed gear, be, like everyone can be at that start line, and so it makes it super cool and this really cool melting pot where any creation can come to life. And like I said, to then start labeling it as like, all right, now we gotta, if you're gonna ride the gravel bike, you gotta wear your flannel, you gotta do this,
Right.
you gotta do this. All right, you gotta play country music now when you do a gravel video, or you gotta like it's. And to me, I have these ideas that I can't wait to, perform them, basically, that will make just the cycling kind of scene be like, or the cycling world be like, what, what did I just watch? Like, what was that? And, I just want people to look at something as art, like you don't have to create this gravel video to tell people why you're doing gravel, just create art, And,
TJ, stay on.
That's just my goal.
The transition from road racing over to gravel, and you mentioned kind of a melting pot. I know exactly what you're saying. That it's opened up a whole new everyone
community.
A whole new community. What was it that interested you in the change?
Just the freedom, the pure freedom. There's no governing body. There's no like official teams. There's no like, you show up to an event and there's no just rules. It's just people having fun on bikes. And I remember showing up to Dirty Kansas, and the night before I was kicking it with Finney, and we were talking all about this. And I was like, he was like, man, what are your plans? What are you gonna do? And I was like, man, I'll tell you what I do if I have the resources, or like the like I would tell you what I'll do. And so I told him all about this dream of this gravel vibe, doing this stuff, do it how I want. And we did Dirty Kansas the next day. Super awesome, really like crazy cool buzz. And then a week later, Finney messages me and he's like, yo, dude, I'm in. And I'm like, okay, like if you're willing to give up your $1 million contract. And that's then because of his support, because he was my best man at my wedding. And so we're real close. And so to know that, like, all right, this was something we worked on at the beginning together, and we'd email back and forth these notes on what would the name, growth, like sponsors to look for, people to grow. And even though it's not what we wrote up, and like eventually we were like, nah, let's not do it together. It turned into actually something better, you know, for me, and it's more personalized around me. And like I said, I see it as like, oh, it's my art form, but for the bike, you know, and it's just super, super special to be, I think, a part of this community, and which is like just, again, a gravel cycling community where, you know, if you see somebody out on the road, you just wave, you know, or see somebody at a race, talk to them, you know. Again, people just, I think that's what's cool. Whereas compared to at a local crit, it's like people are all fumed up and pissed off and complaining to the officials, complaining that they think they got 6th instead of, you know, 8th or 10th instead of, you know, and it's like, man, you didn't win, so who cares? Yeah.
You know, one thing that I think is cool, TJ, is the art component with cycling. You've taken two things that you love. Most people are not able to take the things that they love and kind of meld them into one. And some cool examples, you know, as we follow you on social, it's fun to watch like frames that you paint and then are purchased as large donations to local community. Yep. Very cool. Yeah. So what is the future of painting frames, and can we get excited about buying some TJ customized frames in the future?
Anybody can always hit me up if they wanted me to paint their frame, you know, but for the most part, everything for me is always in the moment. So it's not like I'm pretty much, you know, like, hey, I need a frame this year to paint. It's like I did that last year. Maybe I give it some breathing room and focus on something else this year, you know. And like for the moment, I'm booked up with my art till May, you know, and it's like doing just some commissions, doing a mural down here, and it's just about kind of growing with that. And, you know, again, I just let my art kind of speak for itself. And if, you know, a company approaches me or I approach one of my sponsors and have an idea, but if I don't have an idea at the moment, then I don't have an idea at the moment, you know. And it's like, I think it's just best to let things come with their right time and moment, you know, because I also understand that like last year was a crazy year. And so a lot of people are still trying to catch up on that. And I might be already in 2060, but they're still in 2020, you know. And so it's like, you just have to pull the brakes on some thoughts or some ideas, write them down. And it's funny, like I think every day, like I get so excited with the thought of process of where I'll be as an artist, and even with Imaginary Collective or as a cyclist in 10, 20 years, you know, because I just see the art that I've created and the foundation I've built in just these last couple of years, you know. And where I was originally taking a piece and selling it for 200 to 500, now those pieces are selling for 5,000 to 6,000, you know. And so I can't wait to see where I just take that and elevate things and grow. And, you know, even when I think about subject matter of creating, you know, I have a lot of subject matter and ideas that I want to create for pieces of art, but I know I'm not at that level yet or in that place yet. But I know I have those ideas, and as I grow or know, like, all right, now's the time to perform on that idea, then I do. But I just kind of let it run its course. And, you know, like I said, if I want to do something custom, but for the most part, it's just kind of seeing how it goes.
Nice. Yeah. You know, one thing I read, TJ, which I love, that kind of goes along with this, was when you said that hopefully one day when you look at your daughter, you'll say, hey, follow your dreams. And then she'll be like, well, yeah, that's what you did. I mean, you did. I mean, it's what you're doing. Like, did you get that courage from cycling, or is that, I mean, where do you, no. I got I was a real pushover. I felt like growing up, I was a real, like, just follower. I felt like growing up, I felt like I was also, just always trusting way too many people. And as soon as my wife was pregnant and my
you know, you're like, you have this all of a sudden this major awakening. You're like, okay, I'm 25, and like I said, you didn't have any money at that time. My wife had a terrible job at that time. You're like, this is crazy. And you just gotta, like, at that moment, you just wake up and you just man up. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, you just, you either are just gonna go cry in a hole and like not get anything done, or you're just gonna go, like, for me, I went straight out to my studio and started painting. Like, just started, like, it was just crazy. My wife didn't see me for like that whole month because I was just out in the studio just painting out everything, putting out motion and work and work and work. And like, for me, just that confidence and everything I do, that's really where it all stems from, was just them, seeing my wife, seeing my daughter, and being able to like actually tell my daughter when she did get to an age and see, like, like, oh, I want to do this in my life, or I want to meet this person. All right, cool. Like, write that down, or let's plan on that. It was like, there were years, I idolized Lance Armstrong. I followed him. He was the reason I got into cycling. And if you would have told me when I was a kid, that you're going to sit down and kick it with him and have a good, kick it, like, you just would be like, no way would I meet him. Like, no way that's possible. And then next thing you know, you are, and you're kicking it and you're messaging, and he's a cool guy. But it was funny, like, my nephew, he was like, oh man, I'll never be able to meet Steph Curry. And me and my brother looked at him like, dude, do not say that. Cause me and my brother had just come back from Aspen, and we're just like, you have no idea what you can and can't do, and what you can and can't manifest. And like, that's really what I've learned from this last year, is through meditation, is like what you can manifest and how strong it is. It's crazy what I'll go into meditate and I'll manifest something, and you'll come out of it, and it just happens. It works. Like, and people will be like, oh man, nah, that's just what you think. But it's like, man, go meditate. I do it, 30 minutes to an hour every day, since last April. And there's no advice I would give to someone else more than just to go meditate. And like I said, the confidence it builds in you, the vulnerability, the honesty, you're more yourself all the time to everyone you meet, because you just really don't care what people think of you. Like, I had a friend I was riding with the other day, and he's like, oh man, like, don't you, like, he's like, I want to do that because I would just be nervous what someone would think. And I was like, man, who cares? Like, literally, who cares? Like, I know all those followers that, those people that follow me, they're real people, but I barely know them. Like, I might know a few people in real life, but like, honestly, I live in the real life, and it's like, I don't try to please anybody on there. It's like, if someone doesn't like me on there, they cannot like me, and they can go unfollow me. Like, I'm not trying to make people like me. I'm just trying to be myself, and, just spread love and just be good. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not trying to do something. I'm not trying to put on an act. I'm not trying, like, it's really funny. A lot of people will be like, they'll ask people like, oh, is TJ really like that in person? Or does he just talk about good vibes and being positive? And it's like, dude, and at first I didn't get that. I was like, yeah, I'm like that. Like, people fake that. And then I met someone last year where I was like, oh yeah, you're one of those people that, on social media, they're super positive and good vibes, and yeah, and then you meet them in person and they're like super negative. And it's like, I didn't know that really existed, because I was just like, wait, you're being that fake. But like I said, it just comes from, I just try to be always myself, because as I do every day, you just see more opportunities arise. You just see more people gravitate towards you, because that's our biggest issue in this life, is we're trying to always be someone else. We're trying to look like someone else. We're trying to, be fast or be good like someone else. You know what I mean? And it's like, why are we always trying to do that when we're just us? Like, we just be you. Like, when we spend our whole life trying to be someone else. If we were to just spend our whole life being ourselves, imagine what you could accomplish and the creativity that could be accomplished. Like, so many of our dreams are built up from, you know, our family's ideology or our community's ideology. And it's like, wait, did you actually sit down with yourself and be like, all right, you know what? I might not get rich from this, but man, I'm going to wake up so happy every day. And this is going to be the coolest job. And I get to do what I love. Or like our community and our like society kind of teaches is like, all right, go to school, get in debt, get a job, get your boat, get the suburban house, get it all, more money, more products. And it's like, chill, man, go walk outside, go meditate, go get your clothes dirty and just wear it again. Like reuse things. It's just crazy.
Nice. TJ, this is so fun. It's so fun to hear some life lessons here from TJ. Really enjoying this, and also want to transition gears a little bit to really cool announcement that came out that TJ will be joining us at the Crusher.
Nice.
And TJ also coming off of the inaugural first time Belgian waffle here in Utah. That was really cool to see you there as well. Talk about some of the events, gravel events here in Utah, and from our standpoint, it's fun to have you there as a local legend. And
he can't be a legend, dude. He's only like 26. Are we really giving him legend status?
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Talk about your 2021 with us.
When I was 24, I premeditated that when I turned 27, I want to be a legend. And like people will say, oh, that's your ego speaking. But that's me saying that when I was 24, I wanted to make sure that I had done something credible to my life. Like, and so that's me just always challenging myself that, okay, by the time I'm 27, I have to push. And like, I'm there. So I need to push. And I always and like I said, whether I'm 27 and I'm not a legend, that just helps you always set a goal for yourself to be the best at what you're doing. You know, just always strive to be your best.
Well, TJ, maybe this case in point, maybe you started wearing the flannel first on the gravel bike, and now everybody is wearing the flannel, listening to the country music and doing their posts according to following TJ. That might be your claim to legend status.
Man. And well, I mean, a thought of that is like, we're always going to absorb who we follow or that's how your personalities are built. That's how you're built, is absorbing what we like. And so, yeah, you're always going to pick that up. So I do see that. I mean, that's the coolest thing about life, is that you're always going to be right and you're always going to be wrong. You know what I mean? Like you're going to always be wrong. And like, if you can accept that, and like, you know, when I say that, you know, I can say my opinion and I can say what I like, but I can understand that the person who's listening, they might not agree at all. And I dig that, you know, and that's, again, just realizing that there's always an opposite, you know, whether you might look at something and see it a certain way, that person next to you might see it 100% different. And I like that. And I really enjoy that. So I like, if I say something and people don't agree with it, or they like it and they want to apply maybe a part of it to their life, or like, I totally agree with that, because the people I looked up to, I took their best and applied it to what I like. And that's why I always try to always surround myself with older people, like, just because I believe they've gone through it. So you can learn a lot. But anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked off of my schedule. I'm super excited. So coming up here in like 10 days will be actually one of Utah's great, like, nice little stage race with True Grit Epic. And that's going to be a gravel race the first day on the 11th. On the 12th, it's a mountain bike, or it's another gravel race. And then on the 13th, it's a mountain bike race, which is super famous here in St. George. Super cool event, super excited to be doing that. So I'll start off there, and then really not sure what be doing in April, you know, with COVID and everything, you really don't know what events are going on. And so it's always been kind of like up in the air. But for Utah stuff, yeah, I'll be doing probably the Salty Stupid ride again. I really love that. That's from Eagle Mountain to Wendover, Nevada. And if you don't know about that race, go learn about it, because it's incredible. It was 220 miles on beautiful Pony Express, trail that goes through the Utah's West Desert. And when you're out there in the middle of nowhere and seeing those wild horses, there's nothing better, and then it's super cool. And so that's a great event. I'll be doing that. I'll be doing this great event called Rules of Three, which will be out in Bentonville, Arkansas. And that's a great gravel event. And then obviously the Crusher. It's probably my favorite event, just because Burke is one of my he's a brother to me, definitely an older brother. He's the reason I got into gravel. I remember that year when I was in 2019, that whole 2018 when I was training with him, he'd always be on a gravel bike. And he'd then finally, after I did Dirty Kansas, the next day I went out and rode with him, and he showed me the beauty that Cedar really had to show with its gravel riding. I was just locked in, and I was like, oh, I get it, man. I get why you do this. And so I'll be at the Crusher for sure. I love that event. It's so beautiful up there. Those mountains are so incredible. And I hope to do, and then hoping like probably Leadville, and then all the Belgium Waffle events. So I think that there's like the San Diego one in May, one out of North Carolina, Cedar City, which was just phenomenal last year. It was so good, with the course being planned to really showcase, I think, Cedar City to its best ability, and showcase kind of Southern Utah in a course, where you went out to Parowan Gap, you're able to see the amazing petroglyphs, then you're able to loop back through the desert, then hit up some of those steep climbs that Cedar, but those beautiful red cliff dirt and stuff. So it's such a good event, but that's kind of it right now. I was really bummed the Epic Ride events got canceled for this year, and those are like the camping events and like the 24-hour events. And I was a big fan of those. I did that one last year, 24 Hours of Old Pueblo, and it's a phenomenal event.
Man, that's great.
Chip, are you doing any of those, Spence? Will you guys be together?
Yeah, so I'll do Belgian Waffle again.
Nice.
I did this last year. I'll do Crusher again. I did it in 19 and the virtual one this last year. And then
are you doing True Grit?
Yeah, those are the two. No, I'll be in St. George the week before for camp.
Nice.
But Park City Point to Point is what I would like TJ to come try.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I grew up, was born and raised in Lehi. And so I was, my home roads were AF Canyon and doing all those mountain bike trails. And I would love to, come up and do it. I need to, just reach out to the promoter and put it all together.
Yeah, for sure.
TJ, a lot of the guys that listen and people that listen to this podcast are just specifically on this team. Like as it grows, one thing that we usually ask people that come on is, you've shared a ton of advice, but what would you say to a young rider, somebody getting into the sport, a novice, even just like, a non-legend? How do they benefit and enjoy cycling in a way that not only whatever fitness, that's great, but changes them, helps them be better?
The best advice I ever got from a coach, well, it wasn't even advice, it was just a question. And that was why I was in Europe, I was in Belgium, and just it wasn't vibing. And my coach was like, why do you ride? And you're just like, man, you stupid, to win, to race, to win. And that's not why. You don't ride your bike because you like to win. Maybe the top guy because he's winning all the time and that's his absolute then job. But most of the time you're losing 99% of the time. So you got to get used to that, and you better have a really strong reason why you're going to go out there and suffer and know that you're probably going to lose. Because like when you go, like for instance, you plan on going in a break, you know you're going to lose. You have a very, very slim chance of winning. But that's the risk. That's the romance. That's again, you have to know why you're doing it deep down to keep going. And that's like, if you don't have that, then you'll get to the sport and you'll get to the top, and you'll probably be pretty disappointed if you don't have that, like why you're riding. Because if you've gotten there, like I said, you got to know, like, do I really like doing this type of riding or this? And the thing is, with social media nowadays and anything, you know, it's like anything is possible. And yeah, you just got to know what you're trying to do, you know, and that comes from knowing who you are, knowing what you're trying to accomplish. And like, also, I don't expect a young kid to know, like, you could give a kid advice like this, and they might pick up a little salt of it, and which is like I would have, and any kid is always. And it's just like, honestly, it's just experience. You gotta get your head kicked in. Like you gotta be suffering. You have to go through these things that make you in your mind have to break or switch, you know what I mean? Or like you can't just, like I said, you could give this advice, but you can't stop someone from suffering or pain. You know, they have to do that to be able to have success. And it's like, honestly, that's a big reason why we named our daughter Nirvana, was because that's what Nirvana is. It's this state of like paradise with good and bad. And that's kind of this misconception I feel like we have with this thought of like heaven and hell. It's like, wait, so if you were to get to heaven and nothing bad were to happen, or you want to feel pain, that would totally then remove all of happiness and all of beauty. You know what I mean? Like all this goes away. And so once you realize that you have to have suffering, you have to feel pain, you have to feel heartbreak, you have, like, nothing is cherries every day, or else that sucks. Like you have to have the bad to be able then to feel the good. And like, I'm never one to like say like, oh, that doesn't exist. Like most people will be like, oh, no, that's bad. It doesn't, it's like, it's not real. It's like, no, accept it. Accept like, oh man, you know what? I'm having a real hard day today. Like, you know, understand what you're doing or going through rather than like just going in it, you know, and just being like, understanding like when you're having a hard day or a bad day, oh, that's just me having a hard day. It's not who I am. I'm not a depressed person. It's me having maybe depressed thoughts that day. It's me you know, and it's like, well, then if you're having that, then share that, you know, or talk. And it's like, yeah, we're just not open like that.
I love that, dude. That's great insight. Hopefully, I mean, that's a lifelong journey, dude. That's not just, I mean, you'll never know. I mean, for me personally, I'll never know instantly at any moment why. What a fun thing to always ask yourself, though. Not always be looking at why it's done. So, and just realizing too, like, I mean, you might be like feeling like you're on a good vibe with life, but then knowing like, okay, I wonder what's going to be the next struggle that's coming up. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I think about a lot, because once you're thinking then in the future of like, okay, what can I like, you know, you're not caught up with the daily negative things. So then you're starting to, because you're already living a good vibe. So then you're starting to think, well, okay, I'm already prepared now. So like, what then could distract me from this? And then if you're thinking, I mean, it's just like training on the bike. Like, all right, if I'm prepared for, you know, let's say that were to happen, or like, oh, that AC is going to go out in the summer, you know, or something like that. And it's like, you're prepared for something. You just start, I don't know, growing around it. And when something maybe that does happen, you're prepared for it. But I don't know. That's just thoughts in my head. Good thoughts.
TJ, as we start to kind of wrap up, the podcast that you're hosting right now, The Next Stage, is awesome, and it touches on you know, first of all, I love the name of it, based on, and we've learned about that here today why you've called it the next stage, and you're kind of living in that next stage and showcasing it. And man, you've brought a lot of great things to for our viewers and listeners here today. Very cool. Any talk to us a little bit more about who you seek to bring onto your podcast and what you're trying to accomplish in the podcast.
Yeah, for the next stage, it's been awesome. It's just, for me, I view it as another creative outlet. It allows me to learn how to be a better communicator, in the sense of actually not communicating, but actually listening, and try to then guide them to where you maybe want to guide them. And it's pretty cool where you start then to learn. It's almost like this. I mean, people say it all the time jokingly, but the art of conversation, it's a real thing. Learning to have a conversation, and not just like small talk, but to actually jump in and to be able to discuss things. I love that. And I love, having someone feel comfortable enough around me to feel open enough to be able to discuss whatever they want to discuss. And I love being able to maybe talk to them about things that maybe no one else has maybe asked. And for me, it's all about, it started with my good friend Tyler Williams on there, and it was great because me and him would grow and kind of help feel how to do it. And then, I really enjoyed doing a lot of these like solo kind of missions on these other podcasts where I've called up a lot of like closer friends and had more conversations, rather than, like, all right, let's, Tyler will hit this point, maybe, oh, did you do any research on this? It was like, nah, I just felt like people, a lot of the people I was interviewing, you could go to Cycling News or whatever and pull up an article about them. So why would I need them to say it again on my podcast? Mm-hmm. And for me, one of the best examples was, like with David Miller. When I did that podcast with him, I was able to me and him were able to get to a place that was so comfortable that, he was, just flooding out all the love for art, and just like talking all about it, his love for art and his love for chapter 3 and what actually chapter 3 is. And, and a lot of people never actually ask that stuff. Like, it's so funny. A lot of people just ask the normal questions, like, tell us about your past teams, and it's like, that was the first time he told me that he had ever done a podcast where people had actually talked to him about art or something besides like his past cycling. Like, I don't care about I care about your past. Like, I know that made you now who you are, but I care about who you are now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not dealing with the David Miller then, I'm dealing with the David Miller now, or I'm dealing with who I am now. So I don't care what was done then. I don't care who you were then. I care about who you are now. And like, for me, it's just about finding people with stories, or, one of the best ones I did was with the Israeli rider, Guy Neve. And he's the first pro Israeli cyclist to do the Tour de France. He races for Israeli Startup Nation. And just just put that in your mind. Like, the first Israeli rider to ever do the tour, and just the pressure, in this podcast, he opened up to me saying that his team really put a lot of pressure on him. Like, you are not allowed to touch the front. You're not allowed to go on any breakaways. You're not allowed to stress yourself in any way, because we need you to finish the tour. Because just an Israeli rider finishing is something that's never been done in their history. So imagine this guy. I still am so just beyond blown away about, the courage, the motivation, the inspiration he must give to kids in his country, and that's just like, we look at Lance, but it's like, this guy he did something that his country never really saw happen. And it's just really cool having these discussions and talking to people where they can be themselves and open up to me. And it was funny, like, when I told some people that I was going to interview Guy Neve, the Israeli rider, they're like, oh man, like, you two are like nothing alike, And I was like, in my mind, I was like, yeah, like, I know that nobody's like me. Like nobody, like, why do I need to be like someone to have a conversation with them? Like, that's not actually how you have a good conversation. Usually a good conversation is with someone who's opposite. That way you can have a talking, point. And for me, it's like, well, yeah, I don't want to, like, I'm not there. I'm there to learn and there to learn from people. And like I said, the art of conversation to me is just sounds very appealing because, again, it's another art form.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I'd love to hopefully have you compare notes with what we've done today and probably give us an F on the way that we've just kidding.
No, man, never. I mean, yeah, it's, again, everyone's art form's their own art form. And like, it's so funny. People will be thinking like, oh man, this is like their podcast. Like they might be like, oh man, my podcast isn't as good as this other guy's. And it's like, well, yeah, you just started or you just are like, at least you did it. That's the thing is like so many people who talk trash are the people who are sitting on their couch on their keyboard. They're not actually doing it. So they can talk all the trash they want, but at least I took the time to sit down, do that hour, do that podcast, be vulnerable, be open to this art form and release it to the world. Again, that's super being vulnerable. And the way I like to do it is, like I said, be very raw with it. So I don't edit a lot of it. I don't, unless something needed to be edited, I never edit it. I just want people to see that it's just a conversation. Like I'm not trying to, do this. I just want it to be a conversation with people and grow, and for me, it's just another way to also learn, learn from people that I look up to, learn from people that I admire or don't even know about.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much. TJ, you're just the man, dude.
Man, appreciate it. You guys are the man. Appreciate it for having me.
You a great example to not only cyclists, but artists and men, everybody that follows you. I would just encourage you to keep it up, dude. Just stick with it. I think the path you're on is influencing people in the right direction. So keep it up, man.
Man, I really appreciate that. That's all. I mean, like I said, is if I know social media is not the greatest, like I know we're all addicted to it, but if I can at least post something that makes someone feel good in some type of way or make someone, I don't know, do something good, then it's worth it. You know what I mean? Or like that stuff's worth it. Cause yeah. So, I mean, you guys saying this nice stuff about me, it makes me feel super grateful, super humble. And like I said, and you said it, like, just stay your path, and same advice to you guys, just stay your path. I stay, like, that's the best thing anybody can do. The more you stay your path and you grow, then 15 years down the road, you're like, oh, wow, look what I've built. Most people go off the path so much that they've never built anything.
Yep.
Love that. Well, you got to know how many times we wake up and we text each other good vibes, and that's all you do. And that's
Man, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's
Yep.
cool. Next time when you guys come down this weekend, I'll have to get you guys some bracelets. That'd be sweet.
Let's do it. We'll hook
So,
up.
Yeah, let's link up. Let me know where you guys are staying, and I'll come say hi and get some bracelets to the crew. That'd be cool.
We'd love
Really
it.
Cool.
Okay, TJ.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate the
dude.
love, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, TJ.